You have a map of the entire ancient world sitting in your head right now. Egypt, Rome, Greece, Mesopotamia. You learned their names in school, you've seen the documentaries. You know roughly how they rose, how they fell, and why. History, you assume, has been mostly figured out. The big mysteries are solved. What's left are just the details. You're wrong. There is a civilization buried in the archaeological record that has no name, no founding myth, no conquering army that brought it down, no plague, no drought, no obvious reason it should have disappeared at all. It simply existed for centuries, built things that should have been impossible for its time, and then stopped. The people vanished. The buildings went silent, and the world moved on as if they had never been there. This is not a fringe theory. This is not ancient aliens. This is peer-reviewed archaeology, published in major journals, debated at universities, and quietly unsettling to the scientists who study it most closely. Because the more carefully researchers look at what this civilization left behind, the less sense any of it makes. Here is what makes this different from every other lost civilization story you have heard. With the Maya, we know the collapse was driven by drought, warfare, and political fragmentation. With the Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE, we have evidence of migrations, famines, and system-wide trade failures hitting multiple cultures at once. Even Roanoke, the famous lost colony, has plausible explanations that historians continue to investigate. Every vanished culture leaves at least a thread you can pull. This one left nothing. No evidence of invasion. No mass graves suggesting plague. No burn layers in the soil indicating fire. No skeletal trauma. No sudden climate shift in the regional record. The infrastructure was intact. The tools were in place. Whatever happened, it did not destroy the buildings. It only removed the people. And here is the detail that stops archaeologists cold every single time. The site was not abandoned in chaos. It was abandoned in order. Certain objects were placed deliberately. Specific areas were left in a state that suggests preparation rather than flight. Whatever these people did at the end, they did it on purpose, which means they knew it was coming, and they chose not to fight it. The first researchers who excavated the site did not realize what they were looking at. That is not unusual. Major discoveries often get misclassified for years before someone looks at the full picture. Then they feel the floor drop out from under them. What is unusual is what happened when they finally did look at the full picture. The more data they collected, the more the site resisted every category they tried to put it in. Start with the construction. The structures are not primitive. They are not the kind of thing you build when just figuring out how to stack stones. The foundational alignments suggest an understanding of geometry that this culture should not have had. This is based on everything else we know about the region and the period. Similar precision appears thousands of years later in civilizations with centuries of mathematical knowledge. Here, it appears fully formed, with no developmental record underneath it. No earlier, cruder versions. No trial and error visible in the archaeological layers. The sophistication is just there, from the beginning, as if imported from somewhere else entirely. Then there is the food supply. Analysis of organic remains shows a diet remarkably stable and varied for this culture. They were not struggling. They were not rationing. The evidence points to surplus, to planning across seasons. A level of agricultural organization that typically requires a centralized administrative system. But no administrative center has ever been found. No storage records. No hierarchy visible in the burial sites. The graves are strikingly equal. No warrior class, no priest class, no obvious elite buried with more than anyone else. And then the writing. Or rather, what might be writing. Researchers are still arguing about this. A series of repeated marks found across multiple structures follows patterns consistent with symbolic communication. Similar marks, same sequence, different locations, separated by decades of construction. That kind of consistency does not happen by accident, but no one has been able to decode it. Not because the sample size is too small, because the symbols do not resemble anything else found anywhere in the ancient world. Whatever system this was, it did not evolve from a known predecessor. It did not influence any known successor. It appeared. It was used for generations. And then, like everything else here, it simply stopped. Every scientist who has seriously studied this site has eventually proposed a theory. That is what scientists do. They look at the evidence, they build a framework that explains it, and they defend that framework until better evidence comes along. The problem with this site is that better evidence keeps arriving, and every new piece of it destroys the previous framework without replacing it. The first serious theory was migration. The population left voluntarily, moved somewhere else, and assimilated into a neighboring culture. It is a clean explanation. It has worked for other vanished groups. But migration leaves a trail. Genetics, pottery styles, architectural techniques, linguistic traces absorbed into the receiving culture. Researchers spent years looking for that trail in every culture within 1,000 miles. Nothing. No population spike in neighboring regions during the relevant period. No sudden appearance of this culture's construction techniques somewhere else. No genetic signature showing up in ancient DNA samples from surrounding areas. They did not move. Or if they did, they moved somewhere we have never found, which at this point in the history of global archaeology is its own kind of impossible. The second theory was environmental collapse, a shift in rainfall patterns, a drop in temperature, a resource that ran out. This is the explanation that has rescued the reputation of many a mysterious disappearance. And there is always something in the climate record you can point to if you look hard enough. Researchers looked hard. What they found was a mild regional dry period. The kind of fluctuation this culture's agricultural system was more than capable of handling, based on the surplus evidence in the organic remains. You do not abandon a thriving, well-fed settlement because of a dry season. Not when you have spent generations building infrastructure designed to last centuries. The third theory is the one that makes archaeologists the most uncomfortable, because it is not really a theory at all. It is an admission. Some researchers have begun quietly suggesting that this civilization made a deliberate collective decision to stop, to disperse, to erase themselves from the landscape on purpose. The ordered abandonment supports this. The placed objects support this. The intact infrastructure supports this. But it raises a question that no scientific framework is equipped to answer. Why would an organized, stable, apparently successful civilization choose to vanish? What did they know that made disappearing seem like the right answer? And why did they make sure we would never be able to figure it out? Here is the part that should bother you more than the mystery itself. We are not bad at finding lost civilizations. We are actually extraordinarily good at it. Satellite imaging now reads vegetation patterns that reveal buried foundations invisible to the naked eye. Ground-penetrating radar maps underground structures without a single shovel entering the dirt. Ancient DNA extracted from soil samples can detect human presence even when no bones survive. We have found settlements underwater, under jungles, under modern cities. We have reconstructed the diets, the diseases, the migration routes, and the social hierarchies of cultures that left behind almost nothing. The tools we have today would have seemed like magic to the archaeologists of 50 years ago. And yet this civilization still has no name, still has no explanation, still sits in the literature as an open variable that nobody knows how to close. That is not a failure of technology. That is a message, not a supernatural one. Not a coded warning from people who somehow knew we would one day be looking for them. Something simpler and stranger than that. It is a message about the limits of what history can actually tell us. Every civilization we have successfully reconstructed left traces because it wanted to persist. It built monuments to last. It kept records to be remembered. It carved its kings into stone and its gods into temple walls because it believed the future was worth addressing. The stories we know about the ancient world are the stories of cultures that tried to survive their own ending. This one did not try. And that changes everything about what it means. Because here is what 3 million years of human behavior tells us. People do not give up continuity easily. Identity, memory, legacy, the need to be remembered, these are not modern inventions. They are as old as the first burial, the first cave painting, the first bone carved into a cup after the meat was gone. The drive to leave a mark is one of the most consistent things about our species across every culture and every era we have ever studied. Whatever happened at the end of this civilization, it was powerful enough to override that drive in every single person. All at once. You will never know what it was. Neither will anyone alive today. The people who knew took the answer with them, deliberately, carefully, and completely. And somewhere underneath all the noise of modern life, that should keep you up at night. Not because of what they left behind, but because of how perfectly, how intentionally they made sure to leave nothing at all.